And welcome to the Daily Space Weather. And welcome to the Smash News Network, least busted name of news. I'm your host, Dan, a.k.a. Smash-O-Mash, coming at you with the most detailed solar imagery and comprehensive space weather you'll find in the known universe. We've got a filament fest going on and lots of stuff to cover. So let's get down and dirty in the solar corona. Huge prominence showing up down here. Huge filaments all around the Earth-facing portion of the solar disk. Likelihood of coronal mass ejections nearly 100%. And these are some favorite filament viewing wavelengths. 304 plus 193 angstroms. Let's switch to 211 plus 171 angstroms. Another pair of great wavelengths here to view solar filaments. And before we show you some fantastic close-ups, please take a moment to press like, subscribe, share, etc. Please comment on the videos. Please visit the links below the description. Check out our playlists. You may find content that you might find interesting that has nothing to do with space weather, like Do One Thing, driving, riding, and pro tips, or perhaps the 12 days of Smashmas. If you want to support the channel, consider becoming a member of the Smash Team at smashomash.com/Smash Team. The best value is the annual gold paid-up subscription. It's almost like getting 4 months of a gold membership for free. We've already explained the mechanism likely underlying the solar sunspot cycles. It's only for gold members, though, however, so if you want to know about a plausible explanation for what causes the solar sunspot and solar polar field reversal cycles, become a member of the Smash Team at the gold level. Help support the channel that way. If you want to send us a few bucks per month, like $2.99, become a silver Smash Team level member. And there's also a bronze level there. Make sure you click on posts to see our latest. We do send out email alerts when we put out videos just like this one. smashomash.com/Smash Team. And let's start out here in the southwestern limb. So this shows great depth to the solar corona here. The 171 angstroms shows the lower portion, and 211 angstroms shows the extended corona. So that's really showing some great depth and character there to those filaments. Like this one down here, that's the Nikki Haley, and this one up here is the Brian Keating filament. We've been naming them after living people. If you want to do so, hit us up over on Twitter. Follow the hashtag #NameThatFilament. Let's take a look at the southeastern limb. By the way, these are all 24-hour SDO videos. We'll go around the horn to the northeastern limb, where another new sunspot has risen. Somewhere over in this area right here. And second last, we'll show the setting regions here in the northwestern limb. And you might notice some prominences up there around the north heliographic polar region. So we haven't left out that little detail. Let's go back and take a look at these little tiny crown prominences hanging out up there. It's the north heliographic pole. And those filaments showing up there as absorption features. So some more dense material there, crazily spinning around the north polar region. Great imagery there from SDO as always. What's that? That's not enough for you? Okay, how about sunspots? That's yesterday plus today. And they've been largely stable here. One thing that's interesting here is we have some interesting evolution of these trailing sunspots. Let me just reload that. These trailing sunspots right here, they're all South Pole oriented. And behind that are some tiny North Pole umbrae there. So that sunspot's shown some interesting evolution here. It's very heavily weighted in South Pole magnetism. Also this one up here, heavily weighted in North Pole magnetism. So some very unsymmetrical sunspots there. That'll be a little bit more obvious in the colorized magnetogram. Let me reload that also, as we don't want to induce seizures for any of our epileptic viewers. Yes, so There you go. There's the SDO colorized magnetogram. You can see lots of active regions there that aren't sunspots and lots of active regions that are sunspots. Let's take a brief look at Crescent Earth, as we've got a huge volcano list here. Volcanodiscovery.com seems to have changed their format or something, so there's an incredibly huge list here of volcanoes. Not sure what's going on with that, but we're going to get through this as quickly as possible. Stromboli is erupting. Volcanic alert level classified as high. Shivaluch is classified as orange on a 4-color scale, the second highest alert level. So Shivaluch also erupting there. Abiko on Paramushir Island. That one is also orange on the 4-color scale. Sakurajima has produced some lava bombs and very high sulfur dioxide emissions. Subanose Jima has tossed some large lava bombs up to 500 meters from the vent. Karengatang also erupting, flight level 080. It's an 8,000-foot ash plume there over Siau Island, part of Indonesia. Also Ibu exploding, 7,000-foot ash plume from Ibu. Dieng warned to take caution when digging as gases could be released from the soil. And check this out, carbon dioxide levels reached 112,000 parts per million at the crater. That's a little bit too much to breathe. Hopefully you weren't standing around there, or if you were, maybe you had respiration equipment. Luatolo on the Lesser Sunda Islands also producing some gray and white ash plumes there. No indication on the flight level. It looks like it's pretty low. Merapi also on the list. 2 avalanches produced at the lava dome there. Semeru erupting. No indication on the flight level there. Papandayan on West Java erupting. No indication on the flight level there. Merapi erupting. No indication on the flight level there. So as you can see, I don't know if they're just listing every single active volcano, whether it's erupted or not. Dakono producing a 7,000-foot ash plume. Kilauea, we reported yesterday that it's slowing down, and indeed aviation color code remains at orange, the second highest on the 4-color scale there. Ahi on the Mariana Islands continues to erupt, I guess. Let's see. Oh, plumes of discolored water above the seamount were visible in satellite images on the 1st, 2nd, and 4th of March. So alert level remains at yellow there at Ahi, the seamount near the Mariana Islands. Tanaga in the Aleutians. Looks like it had an earthquake swarm. They're all at shallow depth, so possibly magma moving around there under Tanaga. Takawanhaga, also in the Aleutians. That remains at level, at yellow, the second lowest level on the 4-color scale. Great Sitkin there on the list. Yeah, okay, seismicity was low there. It's still on the list because reasons. Atka on the Aleutian Islands. The loss of data flow from seismic stations occurring at Atka. Aniakchak, also on the list there. Some magmatic activity there. Trident volcano also on the list. Popocatépetl, flight level 200. Fuego, flight level 150. San Miguel in El Salvador now showing up on the list. And it looks like it is indeed erupting. Let's press mute on that. There's some imagery. All right. So there we go. The San Miguel erupting in El Salvador. Also headed farther south, Nevado del Ruiz remains at level 3 on a 4-color scale. I'm sorry, level 2. The alert level remained at 3, the second lowest level on a 4-color scale. Okay, anyway, that's what's going on in Colombia. Sangay in Ecuador, flight level 210. Revenador, flight level 150. Cotopaxi, no idea. And Sabancaya, intermittent emissions. And let's look at seismicity here, as we spent way too much time on volcanoes. What's going on in terms of earthquakes? So there's the past 90 days. Things have been mostly calm here. No major quakes. Lots of quakes in the Aleutians, so that is some kind of an uptick there. Looks like a lot of magmatic activity happening in the Aleutian Islands, characterized by both earthquakes and upticks in volcanic alert levels. So let's report earthquakes over a 5 magnitude, like this 5.4 at Micronesia. That was at 13:43 Universal Time yesterday. We also had a 5.2 in the southern portion of Kamchatka. That was at 16:10 yesterday afternoon Universal Time. And remember, folks, any earthquake can be a foreshock. So no major quakes over the past 24, only a few in the 5 magnitude range. There's another one at Kamchatka. So maybe some big volcanic eruptions are fixing to happen here around from Kamchatka to Alaska, as likely magmatic activity occurring down there in that region. So that's certainly interesting. It looks like a volcanic uptick around, well, frankly, around this whole area. So that's interesting indeed, as that is upwind from the U.S. All right, continuing on, it's time to get back to space, and thanks for stargazing with us. We bring you information about things like volcanoes and earthquakes because of popular demand. Here's the past 24 hours of SDO 171 angstroms. And if you're wondering why we do such in-depth space weather, it's because of the advancement of cosmology. Yeah, we're interested in making astronomy and cosmology science again. 10.7 centimeter radial flux is now at, I think it's back down to 180 solar flux units. Here is the 1-year chart. Again, we are seeing a bit of a resistance level here at 180. So despite what some folks might be telling you about how, it's only going to peak at 170 solar flux units, that's just a new support level there. We're expecting this to go, well, frankly, higher than it's been at 234. So that's the current situation, and we are a long way from solar maximum. So says all of the people who know what we're talking about. So yeah, radial flux at 182 solar flux units. So there you go. Space Weather Enthusiast dashboard, the latest reading. And another one will come out this afternoon, of course. Let us know in the comments if you think the radial flux will rise, fall, or stay the same. We also have a bit of a forecast here for a weak coronal mass ejection impact by NOAA. I don't necessarily agree with that, but there is a forecast here for a mild geomagnetic storm later today, really coming any minute. That's the Space Weather Enthusiast dashboard forecast. Let's see if their Enlil spiral shows anything like that. And I have no idea what they're talking about. Anyway, let's take a look at Earth's magnetic moment from space. From space next, this is the past 4 hours. The last 4 hours of Starship Earth's magnetic moment from space, and of course this image right over here, that's part of the reason why we keep telling people the Earth is croissant-shaped. Of course, all the funniest jokes are ones that are based on the truth. So, a classic quote from Jerry Seinfeld, it's funny because it's real. Croissant Earth, that is the past 4 hours of Earth's magnetic moment from space, and just to reiterate, a solar proton largely views Earth's magnetic moment, which means, to a solar proton, Earth is indeed croissant-shaped. Continuing on to our ground magnetic perturbations map, that's the past 4 hours of Earth's magnetic moment from the ground. The scale here, the units depicted here are nanotesla. We do see some interesting magnetic pulses coming out of the northern Atlantic, the northern Indian Ocean there. But things are pretty calm here, even though we did have a brief period of geomagnetic unrest or minor geomagnetic storm. There's the KP index, a measurement of that, and we went into brief geomagnetic unrest / G1 storm conditions there at a KP 4.33. That quickly subsided as the magnetic field changed, and Earth has just recently moved sector boundary crossing. So before we get to that info, let's take a look at the real-time solar wind measured at Lagrange point 1 by the ASIN Discover. So the current situation is 425 kilometers per second for the solar wind velocity, solar wind density just under 10.5 protons per cubic centimeter. Moving to magnetic data, there are your GOES magnetometers. And again, Earth has recently, just in the past few hours, moved into the North Pole-oriented current sheet. So let's take a look at that. Next, our top view ecliptic plane field plot, another feature that we show daily on the channel, which needs to be reloaded because reasons. So Earth is now in a North Pole-oriented current sheet, which, well, for all of you space weather enthusiasts, might lead to weaker interactions with solar plasma, but we'll have to keep an eye on that. And when I say ion, well, pardon the pun. Yes, we are physics nerds on the channel. So anyway, that's the top view ecliptic plane field plot. You can see there is a North Pole current sheet that Earth has just snapped into. Depicted here in green, there's the North Pole current sheet. Here is the South Pole current sheet moving to the opposite side of the closest star. And let's take a look at our line of sight field plot. So we're getting this great twisting effect here of the sun's B field depicted in blue. That is the sector boundary crossing. And you'll see that start to fan out once again as the North Pole current sheet arrives in earnest. Keep in mind that magnetic environment can change basically with zero warning, which moves us to coronal holes. So coronal holes are super important as they tell us the solar polar field reversal process. And at the moment, we've got some North Pole-oriented coronal holes rotating in here from the east, South Pole-oriented coronal holes rotating out to the west. And if you're a new viewer, by the way, we call this the east side of the sun, and we call this side the west side of the sun, because this is where space weather sets, and this is where space weather rises. So east and west, just like sunrise and sunset, makes perfect sense to me. And here is our SDO 211 angstroms wavelength. Just give that a quick minute to load here, folks. And it shouldn't be disappointing. So there you go. There is yesterday plus today in 211 angstroms. That's the SDO browse data feature. And what's really cool about that is you can actually rock it back and forth. If there's a certain thing that you're looking at, just press pause, and then you can move it back and forth. If there's some event that you were looking at, maybe a solar flare or something like that, you're looking to take a capture of that. And the great thing also is you can save those images, because that's just a series of images there from the GOES SDO browse data. Not the GOES SDO browse data, the SDO browse data. So that's the coronal hole situation. We have a trans-equatorial North Pole-oriented coronal hole rotating in here. That should become geo-effective within the next week. 5 or 6 days until we see a high-speed wind from that. Otherwise, things are pretty clear. And by the way, this is what the SDO browse data page looks like. If you go to the Sun Now page and you click AIA/HMI browse data, it'll bring you to that. Just put in the dates that you want and the wavelengths that you want, and press submit. And let's move to sunspots. So as many as 16 named sunspot groups there showing up on the list. We'll have a huge uptick in the sunspot number today as a result of this. And at least one more named sunspot group up here. It'll be 3250, maybe even 3251. Not sure on that, but yeah, that's a lot of sunspots. What say you in the comments? And now we're looking at SDO 24-hour videos of the SDO continuum plus 211 angstroms. So what we're doing here is we're showing you coronal holes and sunspots at the same time. And, you know, you could look at this as a low pressure zone, right? Stellar low pressures are so low that they blast protons out into space. And you could look at these as high pressure zones, if you want to look at it from a meteorological perspective. Sunspots constrain material, and coronal holes blast material out into space. Let's zoom in here before we subtract 211 angstroms. So there is the zoomed in view of that same data set. Again, that's a great composite there because it does show coronal holes in 211 angstroms, the extended corona, as well as sunspots. And let's subtract the 211 angstroms to just show the SDO continuum. Basically, the expansive visible light there. And we do have some South Pole umbral consolidation happening behind this sunspot group down here. It's got like a crescent-shaped active region behind it. Pretty interesting. And then a bunch of very small, weak North Pole umbrae trailing it there. So that is a lot of sunspots. And if your theory requires the sun to shut down and stop producing sunspots, your theory is debunked. Continuing on to energetic particles and solar flares. No spikes in the proton flux despite some M-class flares in the past 24 hours. That's your GOES proton flux as measured by the GOES 16, and here is the GOES X-ray flux as measured by the GOES 16 and GOES 18. So 2 M-class flares. There were minor M-class flares have happened since yesterday. Here is the last 24 hours. You will see 1 M-class flare from this sunspot group down here. So once again, remember, folks, that we don't need any solar flares or sunspots to see coronal mass ejections. We learned how to forecast coronal mass ejections near solar minimum. That was just sort of one of those things where it's a question not asked, because in science what happens is you ask questions because there are certain things that you want to know about, and often you don't end up with answers to the questions. And often that leads to answers to questions not asked, and of course, most of all, more questions. So what happened was we were trying to decide what to cover on the daily space weather videos and realized that we were forecasting coronal mass ejections, or CMEs. So we started doing it, and then we stopped doing it because it did absolutely nothing to our subscriber count or our view count. So, when it comes to YouTube, folks, if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense. So, yet another reason to consider becoming a member of the Gold Smash team, because we'll provide you additional information that we refuse to give out at the moment on YouTube. Here's the past 24 hours in 131 angstroms. Lots of flare capabilities, lots of coronal mass ejection capabilities. And let's continue on here. We don't want the video to be too lengthy. This is what's going on overhead right now over Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. You've got Saturn and Mercury rising ahead of the sun, and Jupiter and Venus rising behind the sun. Also, we've got Mercury showing up on coronagraph imagery, which we'll get to here in a moment. First, the solar system forecast as Earth moves into a more and more lonely portion of the solar system. Here's where things are now. Here's where things will be in a week on the 16th. And let's look at coronagraphs next. So there are yesterday's images, some minor CMEs happening there. No earthly directed ones, at least as far as I can tell. And if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. One thing about our YouTube channel is that we don't try to gaslight people. We don't shart light. And we don't, cherry pick data and lie about astrophysics and cosmology and geology and things like that. We just don't misrepresent stuff. And when I am wrong, guess what I do? I admit it, I get ahead of it, and I move on with life. I don't try to gaslight people and undermine my own credibility. So we'll also look at the views from Stereo A and so on, but first, some facts about project management. So if you're not familiar with project management, you might think that your project can be cheap, fast, and good. And if that's the case, I feel sorry for you, because that is not the way reality works. Because your project can be either cheap and fast but not good, in which case it's bad. It can be cheap and good but not fast, in which case it's slow. Or it could be good and fast, in which case it's expensive. So pick two, because no project is cheap, fast, and good. And if your boss is an utter hack and has no idea what they're talking about, maybe order a shower curtain or a tapestry or maybe an acrylic block featuring these facts, because pick two, you don't get three. It can be good and fast but not cheap, good and cheap but not fast, or fast and cheap but not good. Those are the facts about project management. That's today's featured product. You can find links below the video to all of our products, at least all the ones that we're currently offering. There are like 32 of them, so check those out. And thanks to everybody from Croissant Earth who has decided to pick up some Redbubble merch. That helps increase the probability these videos will continue to exist and remain publicly visible also. Next, we're going to look at the view from Stereo A and the Soho Lasco C3 since we do it on the regs. And here is the situation. That is 90 frames from each space station. So things are pretty chill, and if you're wondering what that planet is down there in the lower right of the right pane there, that's the Soho Lasco C3. That is Mercury showing up. And things have been quite chill as far as coronal mass ejections in the past 24 hours. And that is likely to change. So this is the past 24 hours, SDO 304 angstroms plus Soho Lasco C2 and C3. Here's a zoom in. And here's an even closer zoom in. And thanks for leaving comments, Mike Bordages. Mike has indicated that he likes to be expensive, good, and fast. So I agree. I completely agree with that. I want to be in the expensive, good, and fast portion as well. That is the place to be. Although I don't mind if a project that's not super urgent is also inexpensive and good and slow. So that's a thing too, as I've got contractor friends of my own. So now we're looking at filaments here, and again, it is a massive filament fest. Look, there are dozens of filaments on the Earth-facing portion of the solar disk. Let's see. This one down here is a prominence. That could be named. This one up here is massive. Look at the size of that one. Very dense, very thick and dark. So lots of material in there that's not hydrogen alpha. And yeah, so two great filaments there that could be named. Let's bring up the latest image and copy that. And you're all invited to join us on Twitter. So thanks to everybody who's joined us on Twitter. You're all invited to follow Space Weather Twitter and so on. There's a lot less nonsense about space weather on Twitter than there is on YouTube, I think. Although there are some utter hack frauds on Twitter. And of course, you'll get to see Elon's tweets even if you don't follow Elon, which is really annoying and obnoxious, as Elon has grabbed the mic and kept shadow bans in place. What a giant, overrated turd that guy is. And I don't believe one word he says about his investment scams, because he's scammed people about Tesla, he's scammed people about Bitcoin and Dogecoin and Twitter, and it just continues. Thanks to our Twitter followers, by the way. If you don't have an account over there, get one. It's the important social media causing people to unplug entirely from their junkware meta platform. I mean, look, Twitter is garbage also. It's also a lot more elegant than Feces Book. Yeah, Feces Book. Here's the past 24 hours of SDO 304 angstroms. Yeah, Feces Book. It's a crock of shit, just like YouTube. Yeah, a lot of people are full of feces on both Facebook and YouTube. And if you're viewing the videos on BitChute, wow, the comments over there are just ridiculous. We should make a whole video just about BitChute comments, because there are some utter morons on BitChute. Anyway, that's the past 24 hours SDO 304 angstroms with its fantastic resolution. Eyes on this filament, and this filament, and this filament, and this filament, as coronal mass ejections are coming. In fact, we can expect to see one today. It's another one of those days with a 99.9% chance of additional CMEs happening, which could be earthly directed. It's just too early to tell. So here's the GOES 16 SUVI for the past couple of hours. That last video, that's the last 24 hours from SDO with its high resolution. Here's the past couple of hours in GOES 16 SUVI with its wider field of view. So this prominence down here is not going to keep hanging out. That is on its way out. It could collapse instead of ejecting. But we'll be streaming that later today. Make sure you view the Twitch channel, twitch.tv/SmashoMash. And let's get into our bonus features segment. So starting out with charging hazards, we've got some significant surface charging hazards over the Central Pacific Ocean caused by low-energy electrons on the outsides of spacecraft. There you can see the charging hazards. That's our satellite's community dashboard view. If you want to view that yourself, that's part of the Space Weather Prediction Center. GOES electron flux here, showing some rather wild variations there. Keep in mind that is midnight local time for the GOES 16 and GOES 18. Just coming off of midnight there for the GOES 18. So here's the forecast model by NOAA. NOAA expecting a decrease here in relativistic electrons. I would tend to agree, especially if they're right about the coronal mass ejection impact. Again, it's going to be a very minor one. That should cause a little dip if it actually does occur. No arguments there. There's the one-year graph to put it in context from Solon.info. We'll also show the F-layer and the vibrational frequency therein. It's the bridge between Earth and space. One slice of the thermosphere, the F-layer of the ionosphere. We'll make sure we get that animated for you here. There you go. And part of the reason I'm qualified to stream these videos live is because I am a gamer. Yeah, I used to run game servers and scrim teams and so on, so I'm a little bit adept. I work well under pressure. I can probably shoot a foul shot with you screaming in my face, and I can probably also house you in bowling. So, yeah, I'm one of those sports ringers. Anyway, we've got a lot of high-frequency anomalies happening there in the ionosphere for sure. Wow, lots of high-frequency anomalies there. So we'll let that play through, and then we'll show you the anomalygram, as this might not be meaningful to you. You might not understand the ionosphere map. There's the anomalygram. That's anomaly in megahertz from a 30-day median. So wow, some low-frequency anomalies happening there in the southern Atlantic Ocean. So that is a significant anomaly there. Right here, that low-frequency anomaly there, that's kind of out of nowhere. Keep in mind it is upstream. It is upstream from the South Atlantic anomaly, which is right about here over the South American continent. Yeah, some big anomalies there in the southern Atlantic. And lots of global-scale high-frequency anomalies happening here at the moment. If you're able to use this data to forecast earthquakes somehow, let us know in the comments. Perhaps we'll even feature you on a video if you've got some forecasting ability, as we appreciate predictive value. So anyway, there's the latest image. That's 1315 Universal Time ionogram and 1315 Universal Time anomalygram. Will also show the total electron content forecast, which is the free electrons between your GPS satellite and your handset. So those are the most likely places to see GPS errors. Some major GPS errors there around the polar regions. So interestingly enough, some large GPS errors happening around the North Pole and so on. Not so much at the South Pole. So that's kind of interesting. It's a little bit out of the ordinary there, I'd say, as it is still summer in the southern hemisphere. And here is your latest solar intensitygram and latest solar magnetogram. So again, we've got one new sunspot that just rose. It's pretty decent size. It's only alpha class, it looks like, at the moment. I only see one North Pole-oriented umbra there. Most interesting sunspot at the moment is probably this group down here in the south. So you see it's got like a crescent-shaped trailing South Pole umbra there. And you can see some North Pole magnetism there mixing in on both ends. So that's a pretty volatile sunspot here at the moment. That one is certainly capable of producing some large flares, despite being rather magnetically simple. There are North Pole umbrae back here, though, so that might be a little bit deceptive, that sunspot. It is capable of producing large solar flares indeed, and there's a great light bridge going across it there, and you can actually see some magnetic polarization happening right inside of that light bridge. So it could be breaking down, it could be splitting in half, or it could be getting more active. Those things are a bit unpredictable. So lots of sunspots here, as many as 16 showing up on the solar flare monitor software. Yeah, we'll see a big increase in the sunspot number today. I think the radio flux is going to be pretty much flatlined here unless we see some sudden changes with respect to sunspot growth, which can happen quite rapidly indeed. In fact, there is another group up there. So at least 2 new named groups in the east. Maybe even 3. I don't think this one's named yet either. So it looks like a big uptick in the sunspot number. Maybe in the radio flux too, but at the moment it's going to be pretty flat. So let's continue on to our meteorology segment here. First, again, take a moment to press the links below the video. So in the description of this video, you'll find all kinds of links to help support the channel and perhaps even support your own health. So we do put up lifestyle videos and other types of things on the channel, as well as information that nobody else gets to see, especially for gold level Smash Team members. Also, silver level Smash Team members get additional content, so consider supporting us that way. If you're unable to open your cobweb-encrusted wallet and send us a few bucks per month, become a bronze member. You'll still receive email alerts about our latest, most important videos and all kinds of disaster alerts like tsunami alerts, space weather alerts, and so on, as we want our viewers to be informed and we want to provide additional value. Thanks especially to our Gold Smash Team members, our Gold Annual Paid-Up Smash Team subscribers, and so on. One of the links you can find below the video is the link to our Hemp Lucid shop. And if you're on hemplucid.com, make sure you use the promo code SMASHOMASH on checkout. SMASHOMASH on checkout to save you some cash-o-mash. Yes, don't mash your cash and turn it to ash by paying more than you need to. Enter the discount code. Or just shop via our link. Either way, we get credit, and you get the splentacularly great products that are available from Hemp Lucid. So shout out to Hemp Lucid, our latest affiliate/sponsor. Great products available there at a discounted price for people like you. So if you're in the market, they make great gifts also, by the way. We love the lip balm is a great one that we receive shipments of occasionally from Hemp Lucid, and we give them out to ride leaders for our local cycling club rides, encouraging people to get on their bike and do all kinds of other healthy things to support their health and their fun. So again, visit the links below the video, and let's get to our meteorology segment here, a regular feature of the Smash News Network Least Busted Name in News. And what we're looking at here is the ultraviolet index and the erythemal dose. So if you're wondering what erythema is, that would be the abnormal condition of the skin to turn red because of inflammation and capillary increases. So otherwise known as sunburn, the erythemal dose. Yeah, that makes it sound really scientific. And what we're showing here is that ultraviolet light is starting to peek into the Arctic. Yeah, peek into the Arctic. Because we are approaching spring. It's only a few weeks, a couple of weeks until spring. So we will be streaming live at the moment of the solstice, which we'll go over here in a minute. First, let's take a look at Earth's surface winds. So those are the surface winds of the eastern portion of the planet, and shout out to our viewers from all around the world. Here are the jet streams of the east, the jet streams of the west, the surface winds of the Americas, surface winds of the central world like Africa, Europe, and the Middle East, and don't forget the jet streams. So as we zoom in closer and closer to the U.S., a quick reminder, spring, it's only 11 and a half days out, 11 days and 7 hours out. So make sure you join us for our live equinox stream. We intend to be streaming live at 5:24 p.m. We'll probably start around 5 p.m. on March 20th to do our standard equinox stream. And it'll be open time for anybody to, maybe we'll even include our Discord voice server so you can actually call into the channel if you like. If you want to actually be on the videos in real-time live voice chat, That is an option for you there in our coming March equinox stream coming on March 20th around 5:24, around 5 p.m. Actually, 5:20, around 5 p.m. Eastern time there, and that will be a YouTube live stream exclusive. Next, we're going to look at clouds and fog here over the Americas. That's what's going on in 3.9 nanometer infrared radiation bandwidth. That is the NASA GOES Interactive Weather Satellite Suite 3.9 nanometer shortwave radiation map. It shows clouds and fog even though it's dark over half of that map. Next, our weather.gov map. If your location's lit, click your location. There are too many counties to cover in this perfunctory video about meteorology. We don't want to get too zoomed in, as we've got viewing areas from all around the world. We got people in Tasmania that watch our videos and even pick up merch. Anyway, that's what's going on in the U.S. and a lot of weather warnings there, especially in the northern portion of the country. Why? Because lots of snow. So let's take a look at temperature anomalies first. This is your 72-hour GFS temperature anomaly forecast in degrees Celsius. Mostly average temperatures here east of the Mississippi. Some hot temperatures around the Gulf Coast and southwest, and some cold temperatures in the Pacific Northwest. Here is your pressure and precipitation forecast based on the same model, and guess what? California is going to get some excessive amounts of precipitation. Heavy storms, thunderstorms, heavy rains, heavy snows. 72-hour GFS pressure and precipitation forecast is what you're seeing here, and this is your GFS 72-hour accumulated positive snow depth change in inches, and check it out, another 4 feet of snow forecasted for portions of California. Yeah, another 4 feet of snow forecasted. Also, some minor snow coming to most of Pennsylvania. It looks like Philadelphia is going to be left out, and Philadelphia is going to get it too. Again, that's your GFS 72-hour accumulated positive snow depth change forecast in inches. And let's move on to our windy.com map. If you're not familiar with windy.com, they've got a great mobile app. Perhaps check that out. And we're looking at the check globe data here from moisture anomaly. So those are the wettest and driest parts of the U.S. You can see the Gulf Coast here, and the southeast coast kind of dry. North central part of the state, part of the country kind of wet. And California's drought has ended in spectacular fashion. Next, our NASA GOES lightning mapper. We've got some significant lightning storms there moving from Texas into Oklahoma and Arkansas in the past about 10 hours. Here's your real-time lightning map from lightningmaps.org. Heavy lightning there in the North Atlantic. Also, some lightning in Spain and Germany. Make that France. Yeah, Spain and France. Anyway, that's the current situation for lightning strikes. Do we have any terrestrial strikes in the U.S.? Looks like things have been calming down here. Next, our U.S. Doppler radar map, and this is about where we'll close things out. We'll show the Doppler, we'll show the clouds over the U.S., and we'll show the water vapor map. So there is your, let me just refresh that as it looks like it's not animated. That's, by the way, radar.weather.gov, radar.weather.gov. If you're wondering what that map is, it's quite a good Doppler radar. I used to use AccuWeather, but it turned to crap, so I stopped using it. Radar.weather.gov works great for me. I have it saved as a favorite for my Android device desktop. I can just click on it. It shows me the zoomed in. It'll actually save the location if you zoom in. The link will actually reflect that location. So if you save that as a favorite, it'll save your favorite zoom in location there. So that's the U.S. Doppler radar. That shows vertical motion of water droplets and ice crystals in the air column. Here is 3.9 nanometer infrared radiation from the NASA GOES Interactive Weather Satellite. And here is water vapor. So no major moisture here at the moment, except for around Arkansas here, moving into Tennessee and so on. The Gulf is looking pretty dry at the moment. High pressure over most of the Gulf. Anyway, this is the recap to close out the video. U.S. Doppler radar map, ground-based systems that show vertical motion of water droplets and ice crystals in the air column. as more precipitation gets pumped in from the Pacific into California. There you can see clouds rolling in the southern part of the state. And last but not least, there's water vapor. That should clear things up if your Doppler radar map is not providing an accurate forecast. Use your water vapor map there to help clarify things. If you're aware of stuff like the fact that this air right here is much more massive than this air right here, that's a relative low pressure system, this air is going to push this air around. Because frankly, folks, clear skies drive the weather, not lows, because weather gets sucked toward lows and it gets pushed away from highs. Anyway, hopefully that helps your understanding of atmospheric physics. Thanks for tuning into the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. Congratulations on realizing the channel exists, and may that solar wind be at your back. Please don't forget to visit links here and here and here and so on.